Live from a NASCAR bunker in Kyle's parents' basement, it's Turn the Radio Off with Mike Parsons and Kyle Bauer.
Become a fan at Facebook.com/TTRO Show. Follow along on Twitter.com/TTRO Show. Or just listen right now. It's Turn the Radio Off.
Well, Kyle, you and I will be all right. We're straight white men.
I don't even know about that.
Well, you know,
I think we're all doomed. But relatively speaking, yes. I mean, in a sense, compared to what everyone else is going to have to go to.
Here's the thing. We'll be okay. And if we're not, that just means everyone else is dead too. So.
I won't have to worry about walking down the street,
right?
As much as, say, a woman or a person of color or an immigrant will. That's obvious. And that's a privilege that I will bear. But I just think we're all doomed in general, and I can't believe that we're here. Mike, I thought his campaign was nothing but a publicity stunt. I thought there was no way in hell he'd make it through the primary.
And for those that don't know, we're talking about the election of Donald Trump to president, which if you haven't been paying attention, he won the title of president-elect last night. In a shocking, I guess it was shocking. I mean, people are calling it the biggest upset in political history. I haven't been around since Washington, but it seems like a pretty damn big upset. And I'm sorry, I cut you off in the middle of your point.
No, it's okay. Continue.
But I think a couple things we can take away from this before we start getting into the doom and gloom is that everything that we thought we knew about elections, about politics, and about polling itself seems to be wrong. Even though one of the big stories today is how did the pollsters get this so wrong, I'm not exactly sure if the pollsters got this wrong because the whole time Hillary Clinton in the pre-election polls has been winning in the popular vote, and she indeed won the popular vote. And if you think about it, the last two times a Republican was elected president, they lost the popular vote. So if we did away with the Electoral College, which this isn't sour grapes on my part, but think about it. Two presidents in 20 years won the popular vote and lost the presidency. And people tell me, I ask a lot of people who support the Electoral College why we need it, how it's advantageous for anyone. And no one's been really able to give me a good it has been able to give me a good explanation. It all sounds very antiquated, back to, certain colonies were bigger, and they say, well, you don't want one state to have more power than another state. Well, wouldn't a popular vote just get rid of all power for all states, regardless of their size?
Yeah, it's supposed to be reflective of states' rights, and it's supposed to give individual states some sort of leverage and delegation.
But Trump was complaining about a rigged system the last week going into the election yesterday. It's like, wait, doesn't it sound like a system where somebody could get more votes than someone else and still lose? Doesn't that sound kind of rigged?
Yeah, I know. And it's actually what he benefited by. And I think it's because at one point Trump's camp was thinking, because of Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Michigan, that your prediction from about a month ago or 2 months ago that Trump was going to win the popular vote, but Hillary was going to win the Electoral College.
Right.
I think at one point Trump's camp thought that's what was going to happen.
Right. And then they backed off that, saying, well, it's the media. And like, wait a second, the same the same media that gave you billions of dollars of free promotion throughout the primaries that got you nominated, that media that's rigged against you?
And for me, I see it as yes, it's a system that's indicative of states' rights, and that's mirrors our House of Representatives, and give states delegations. I understand that.
I don't. I'm not that smart.
I understand that, but I think when you have what you've had between 2000 and this year, and party biases aside,
right?
When you have where you had to have the Supreme Court basically decide the 2000 election,
right?
Because it was such a mess, but had you just went by popular vote, Gore won handedly.
And if you think about it, Kyle, if we went by popular vote, if there probably would have been a Democrat in the White House from 1992 until now, because Bush won it, and of course he won the popular vote in 2004, but if they went by the popular vote, he wouldn't have been up for re-election. You could theoretically believe that Al Gore would have won re-election. Think about that. If it's popular vote, the majority of the country has voted for a Democrat in every election since 2004. And 2004 was a misnomer because that president lost the popular vote but won the election in 2000.
Because we're an evolving nation, we're a multicultural nation. I mean, what do they used to always tell you when you were a kid growing up? The United States is a melting pot.
It's a melting pot.
They've been saying that about the United States since the 40s. And
Trump is gonna make America great and unmelt that pot.
He's going to drain the melting pot.
Yeah, drain the swamp, which sounds very ominous, doesn't it?
Yes, it
borderline
does.
Genocidal.
Yes, and it also sounds like he's going to do that because he's going to do significant damage to the environment while he's president. But as I was saying, when you have what happened in 2000, and then you have historically the most unqualified presidential candidate, and it's not even close. He literally has zero experience in government.
Right.
So there is no way anybody could be less qualified than him. Zero experience in the military, zero experience in government, none. There is nothing that qualifies him to be president. There's nothing that qualifies him to be a city councilman of Warren, Michigan.
Right. Even though if he ran for city council in Warren, he would win.
Well, apparently, by the way the voter turnout went, which was no surprise.
No,
That Macomb County, again, was blood red.
Yeah.
And I always say blood red because those old fuckers want blood.
Wow.
They do. They want blood.
I'll take your word for it. I haven't lived in Macomb County in a long time.
I have. For too long.
I'm living out here in Dingleville. I'm pretty sure that Wayne County was blue as the deep ocean, which might be turning red now with blood and pollution.
Yes, it will. Who knows what the hell is going to be of the ocean? What's going to be left of the ocean by 2020? But
there will be more ocean if the ice caps melt.
But what kind of ocean will it be? There won't be any more coral reef.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But it's you can't have this happen. This is 2 catastrophes in 16 years. And that's what this is.
Yeah.
You could say that this is democratic. The people have spoken. And in a sense, yes. I mean, I guess enough people did vote for Trump that you can say the people have spoken.
Right.
But in a sense, he lost the popular vote. Sure, it was by a small margin. But the point is, he lost the popular vote. So did the people really speak?
I mean, not the majority of people.
Not the majority of people. And what do we have to show for it? We have somebody who is dangerously, recklessly unqualified to be president. And who has run a reckless and dangerous campaign. Those are the only 2 words that I can think that best and most succinctly sum him up is reckless and dangerous.
Right.
That's what he was as a candidate. That's what he'll be as a president. And we can't have that. And I had somebody texting me back and forth trying to reassure me, talk me off the ledge. I didn't sleep last night.
Well,
and I'm still on the ledge today.
Kyle, I wasn't going to do this till later in the show, but now the person you were texting back and forth with, were they a Trump supporter or were they a Hillary supporter looking for the silver lining?
I guess begrudgingly a Hillary supporter looking for. I mean, they were a staunch Bernie supporter, and they, similar to me, they weren't too enthused with what was left, but I guess that's how you could put it. Yeah.
Well, I was a never Trumper myself. And walking to the polls, my question was, all right, am I going to vote Hillary or am I going to vote Gary Johnson? Eventually I begrudgingly held my nose and filled out the circle next to Hill Dog's name. But I would kind of like to do what your friend was doing and maybe try to talk some people off the ledge. And it might work, Kyle, and it might not. And you might be a good person for me to try this on because you're distraught.
You can try, but I had a rebuttal for everything.
Right.
And I could keep going.
And you very well might because, well...
I think this is fucking endgame right here.
First,
the United States, as we know it, committed suicide last night.
Here's what I'm concerned about, okay? Now, the things I like, okay, the thought of lower taxes, yes. I like that. If they can find a better alternative to Obamacare, which I'm not optimistic about, but if they can do it, I like that. What I'm concerned about, and you've been telling me about your foreign policy concerns, and I'm not smart enough to wrap my brain around that. I am concerned though about how Trump has really been talking about his Supreme Court justice nominees. And on Fox News with Chris Wallace on a Sunday morning back in February, he said that he would look to put anti-gay marriage judges on the bench. And
which is contradictory of what he's said in the past, back when he was a private citizen, so to speak, as much as he was.
To me, that's my main concern because it's like, okay, that's something that's been fought long and hard, and it's still it's still new enough where it can be overturned theoretically. And it's just it's like when you start subtracting people's rights just to I don't even know what the purpose would be except just to be punitive at this point.
Yeah, just to flex some muscle and appease the Kim Davises of the world out there. That was her name, right?
Yeah,
the
Kim
Kentucky
Davis,
woman,
the Kentucky clerk. The thought of on day one rounding up undocumented citizens and deporting them. That sounds a bit just Gestapo-like. Now, I can understand if you catch them, they're here illegally, you catch them doing something anyway, like a traffic stop or doing something illegal. Yeah, go ahead and send them back. But don't go kicking down doors.
And that's
terrifying.
He even needs to think twice about that policy, though. I mean, he probably really feels that got him elected. Mm-hmm. But Sheriff Joe... I always butcher his last name.
Arpaio?
Yeah. Down in Arizona, in Maricopa County, was booted out of office last night.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of really good small victories for Democrats last night. Obviously, they lost their opportunity to get the House and Senate back, and of course, we know what happened in the big one. But there were a lot of small victories. That was one of them. And he was the biggest proponent of the whole plan, him and Jan Brewer, to basically just stop people on the street and violate their Fourth Amendment rights and say, let me see your papers.
Now, 5 minutes ago, I said I'm going to try to talk you off the ledge, and I've just been talking about things that I'm concerned about happening. So I'm going to do my best here, Kyle, and you probably have a rebut, but I'm trying, okay? Because there's nothing we can do right now other than just carry on. So 2004, my sister, God bless her, she's always been an activist. She always was the type to say, boycott this company because they do. Very good heart, but would overreact at times. And I remember in 2004, she had me all revved up and afraid of a George W. Bush reelection because, the Iraq War was just a precursor to what he really wanted to do in his second term, and his second term left unchecked. He'd be able to start going into other countries, and then that's going to, start this giant war and bring back the draft, and, they're going to start bringing the fight over here. Yeah, it didn't happen. So, I always think to myself, it's never going to be as bad as you think it's going to be, and it's never going to be as good as you think it's going to be at Obama. When he came in 2008, there were such high hopes that I think the truth is always somewhere there in the middle. Number two, like you said earlier, in the past, he has had a lot of Democratic tendencies. And, one of my favorite things this election season, Kyle, has been these Trump conspiracy theories. And there's a little part of me that thinks that maybe somewhere deep down inside there, he was just saying all that crazy shit just because he knew what would rile up the base and get people out to vote for him. And number three, last night, and this is probably me grasping at straws, Kyle. But like I said, all we can do is move forward and do our best to make the best out of it, speak out against injustices that we see being perpetrated by the executive office. But yesterday I felt that I was almost shocked at sort of how status quo and congenial his acceptance speech was. He had won the election, so he didn't necessarily have to come out and be congenial. And out of all things, ask for unity, which I'm like, what the? It was almost like he took off his he took off his caricature mask, and there was a human being under there, and be like, look, it was a movie set, it was a character. I'm not that crazy. I'm just that crazy to get elected. So that's my best attempt at trying to talk you off the ledge, and it probably didn't help, but damn it, I tried.
Okay. The first, I'll kind of work backwards.
Okay.
Because I have a really bad short-term memory.
That's okay.
So
I probably should have let you rebut it after every point, but we'd be here all night.
Well, working backwards, the first thing about him maybe going a little bit more to the center, which I guess kind of encompasses the last two things you said.
Yeah.
Of him maybe going a little more centrist or maybe cooling off a little bit. I don't know what the hell's going on with that because he said so many things that have contradicted who he was before 2012. And I think in the back of his mind, this whole thing started in 2012, and he saw an opportunity because he was thinking Democrats won't get elected 3 terms in a row for president.
Right.
And he thought at the very least he could make a run at president, probably get knocked out in the primaries, but it'll be a very competitive and noteworthy Republican race because whoever's going to be in the Republican ballot is probably going to be the next president. He can go out and make some noise, get his Q rating back up, and he's out. Well, maybe against his own will, he's now there. So
he was too good at marketing himself that it just became a runaway train that no one could stop.
And he's a master con man.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be surprised that happened in a way. So I don't know where he really lies, but this is the problem. He has Mike Pence now.
Yeah.
He has Rudy Giuliani. He has Ben Carson.
Which, by the way, Rudy Giuliani, is there anyone on earth who's more on the take than Rudy Giuliani?
Who's done more of a heel turn.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this.
He's lost his fucking mind.
He has. I mean, he goes on TV.
And he's going to be in a presidential cabinet now.
He goes on TV and says there were no terrorist attacks before Obama. The mayor of fucking New York during 9/11.
He said Hillary was nowhere to be found during 9/11 at Ground Zero, and there was literally pictures of her standing next to him.
Well, the thing is, when I watch him say this, I could see him rolling his own eyes at his own bullshit.
Yeah.
But
people are buying it.
Right.
Despite visual evidence.
I know. Because
factual evidence.
Because Trump validates a very visceral part of the id, okay? What happened last night was fear and anger won.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's it certainly wasn't logic.
Damn it! I'm supposed to be bringing hope here.
See,
Okay.
it's hard to though, isn't it?
I'm doing my best. But you know what? It's easy for me to do that as a straight white guy. I can't say that. All I can do is bring some hope to straight white Anglo-Saxons. I can't say to a Mexican or a Muslim or a gay person who, they've kind of been in the crosshairs of this whole thing that everything might turn out okay.
Here's in regarding the war thing. I've expressed deep concerns over his foreign policy because I don't believe he's mentally stable. I'm not saying that to make fun of him. I'm saying that out of concern.
Well, his campaign took his Twitter password away from him in the last 3 days of the election.
And by the way, there's a big difference. There's a lot of neo-libs out there and a lot of asshole elites who like Keith Olbermann and Lena Dunham and Sarah Silverman while they're campaigning for Hillary, who didn't endear people to Hillary when in their name were making fun of his mental health.
Yeah.
There's a difference between calling someone unstable in a context that, oh yeah, this guy's crazy. Look at this loon. Ha ha ha. Let's point and laugh at him because he's not on his meds.
Right, and saying he's not in his right mind.
He's not stable emotionally.
Right.
And emotionally steady enough to handle the stress of being president. That's where I'm coming from when I say that. And by the way, fuck Lena Dunham. I could put this whole fucking thing on her.
Wow.
Wow.
If Fred Slow still listened to our show, he would be doing backflips here.
God.
Well, what did Lena Dunham
seriously
do? Just being
annoying?
No,
I just we'd sidetracked too much. But pretty much everything she did publicly in the name of Hillary was a fucking embarrassment, and every reason why people struggled to bring themselves to vote for Hillary. And never mind.
And the thing is, Hillary's like so unhip that she probably is like, oh, the kids still like Lena Dunham. Even though Lena Dunham has turned out to be
and after she wrote that book about raping her sister, nobody liked Lena Dunham anymore. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. Okay, this is what I'm saying. He's unstable. He is the commander-in-chief. He has ultimate word. Are you going to tell me Mike Pence isn't a war hawk? Look at that motherfucker. Are you telling me he's not just fucking rock hard ready to blow something up?
If he can't blow something up, he's going to throw some homos in jail.
Exactly. Both. Yeah. How about that? And let me tell you another thing, too. This whole thing with Putin, that this Putin and Trump are apparently going to have this love affair.
Yeah.
And I believe Russia definitely had some influence on this election, one way or the other.
Comrade Putin sends his warmest congratulations.
Yeah, that's bullshit. You know why Putin's excited?
Why is
because
that?
Putin wanted this fucking dumbass to be the commander-in-chief as president. Do you think Putin wants anything to do with Obama? Putin's scared shitless of Obama. Putin knows he can't fucking touch Obama because Obama's stone fucking cold. That's why Putin wanted someone. He's scared of Clinton, too. Because he knows Clinton's experienced. Mm-hmm. He knows Clinton's not scared. He knows that she's tough. And he doesn't want that. He knows Trump will shit his fucking pants. He knows Trump is an idiot. He knows Trump could be easily swindled because Putin has all those nice fancy castles or palaces or whatever the fuck they're called at the Kremlin or whatever over in Moscow.
But Kyle, Putin sent his congratulations via telegraph.
Putin wanted a stooge in the White House, and he got it, and that's bad news for all of us. Okay, so when California gets nuked, all right, just saying, it could happen because who the fuck looks at Donald Trump and says South Korea or Russia? Oh, again, Russia's just pretending to be our friend. South Korea is furious right now. Okay? Either of them are looking at us right now, or China, too, just for the hell of it, even though I don't trust any of their shit is really up to code.
Right.
They're looking at us right now, and they're saying, Donald fucking Trump, a con man, a reality TV star, guy can't even put a sentence together. He's now the president of the United States. The United States has never been more vulnerable in our time. The United States has never been more vulnerable because of this asshat. that is now the commander-in-chief, who has the final say over any military action, over anything that happens in the United States. He has the final word on now. He has ultimate power. And they look at that and they laugh. And they say, finally, the United States is going to fucking crumble. We got them right where we want them. So all of these conservatives who have their dicks rock hard over the idea of a conservative president, of a tough guy who likes to puff out his chest, call people slurs, point fingers, talk tough, talk politically incorrect. He's just a fucking bully. He's a fucking coward, and he's a fucking idiot. That's all he is. This is the biggest fucking disgrace that we've ever had in the history of the United States. Okay? Aside from slavery. I don't know.
Which isn't off the table right now,
Japanese
probably.
internment camps, maybe number 2, and Trump is right there. That's still a not good company to be in. Trump is right there, electing this guy. We did that, and we put our whole country in danger doing so. Okay? And you know what? You know what my friend said to me to wrap this up? You know what my friend was saying to me?
What's that?
He's saying the United States has a history of racist, misogynist, drunken presidents. You guys made it through that. You'll make it through this. Okay?
I'd like to, even though I feel that my argument, I wouldn't say arguments, my offers of hope were better than that. I feel that I have failed in quelling any of your concerns over a Donald Trump presidency.
You know what I said to that?
What?
I said no president has ever had more of a military arsenal, more of a military budget, more surveillance on people who talk shit about him, on people who dissent towards him, other politicians, people in the media. Who knows? Maybe even citizens at some point. Okay? You got all this data mining. You have all these cameras everywhere. No president has had more access to more surveillance. And on top of all that, no president has had more access to media. He has all of this media that's now at his disposal.
Yep.
And you think Fox News is going to be the only one to become Trump-run media? No. CNN. People Magazine already running a fluff piece. Last week they were running a story about how one of their reporters was sexually assaulted by Trump. Today they ran a story about I can't remember if it was Ivanka or Melania and cute pictures of them with their kids. Okay, so already they've turned. These media outlets know that Trump is a gold mine, and they're also scared of him.
Well, let me offer one more point that I forgot. And I don't think that I don't think it's going to quell any immediate concerns. But let's just assume we're all still going to be alive in 4 years. I believe I'll still be alive in 4 years. I'm sure you'll be alive in 4 years.
I know, but I don't know what my living conditions are going to be. I didn't even get to all of his regressive tax cuts. Well, his tax plan is so fucking stupid and sweeping, and that's one of the things that Bush did. Okay? Our interest rates went way down, our spending went way up, and Bush was like, okay, well, let's give you some more tax breaks. Let's stimulate this economy a little bit more, right? Trickle down that economy. And what happened? We spin ourselves right into the fucking hole. Okay? And then, well, where's our revenue at?
Yeah.
Well, we're not making any money off of taxes. Well, we're spending all this money on stupid wars. Well, what are we going to do?
Look,
oh, no, a recession. We have to bail out 2 auto companies and a bunch of banks.
Well, before we get too deep into the weeds, because we do have to take a break, just think of where our country was 8 years ago, right? 8 years ago, we elected our first black president. 4 years ago, we re-elected that president, even though his vice president telegraphed that we were going to legalize gay marriage. Okay, think of how progressive the country was just 4 years ago, and how far back it seems to have turned in 4 years through the hard work of the alt-right and right-wing propaganda blogs. Now, Kyle, if that means it only took them 4 years to turn back that clock with a liberal figurehead in the White House, well, now there's a very unpopular figurehead in the White House. So with that same hard work, we can get back to being a more progressive, tolerant country in 4 years if we speak up.
I'm hoping so, and I'm hoping that there is such a strong and consistent counter movement that will not be quieted, because Trump had law enforcement. Trump had the fucking police union endorsing him. That was the only union that would endorse him, was the police union. And people need to think about that. Police officers are out there at Trump rallies wearing hats, busting up protesters, okay? Law enforcement love Trump. They want a totalitarian government.
Well,
they want a government that's going to give them immunity to go out and start busting ass with no accountability, even though they've already had little accountability to begin with. Well, that's another thing to consider.
That's the best I can leave you with. After the break, I want to talk about theories as to what I think happened. The series of events that I think took place that got Donald Trump elected. So we'll take a quick break and we'll look at that. Turn the radio off on the internet.
Less rock, more talk. Turn the radio off.
Become a fan at peoplehatemypodcast.com.
License and registration.
But I'm walking.
Do you want to upset an officer of the law?
No, sir.
Good. I pulled you over today for littering.
I didn't litter.
Wow. That's what they all say. Unfortunately, I saw you drop a pair of thunder thighs a few blocks back. Probably happened as you were biting into that apple you're holding.
How'd you know they're my thunder thighs?
Well, my young friend, I'd like to say 2 years, and the police academy helped figure it out. But between us, it was smallstep.gov.
Smallstep.gov?
Yep, Rooney. It's this site with tons of easy ways to lose weight. Some steps are so easy, people don't realize they're doing them. Like you taking small step number 83, snack on fruits. Go to smallstep.gov, you'll see. You can drive off now.
I'm still walking.
Take a small step to get healthy at smallstep.gov. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Switch off the radio. Turn off the radio. Shut down your radio system.
We'll do it live!
What?
I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Turn the radio off. There you go.
Gesundheit.
I'm drunk.
Is that on the mic?
That's all right.
Oh.
All right.
Sorry, I've been fighting through a cold, and I thought the music was still on.
You've been fighting a cold. You've been fighting the patriarchy. You've been fighting fascism. I hope you win at least one of those fights.
Gotta fight fascism now. I mean, it's seemingly here. Ugh.
Well, let's try to put away our passionate commentator hats and let's try to look at this thing analytically. There is a lot of stuff that I was surprised at last night watching the returns as they were coming in. I think that it was funny because were you watching it last night, Kyle?
Oh yeah. Well, I had to do some writing for the Red Wings blog, Winging It in Motown that I write for. I signed up for the game to write the game recap back in August.
Yeah. Not knowing it was election night.
Right. I thought it would have been November 2nd.
Right, because normally it is. I remember the
first Tuesday. Yeah.
I remember the Trump or the. Bob Dole, Bill Clinton election was like November 1st because I remember the night before was trick-or-treating.
Right. And, so since it was later,
Why was it later? Because theoretically it seemed like the more the days went on, the worse it got for Hillary Clinton. If it was the first Tuesday in November, do you think she might have won?
I think it was close enough where you can make that argument.
Yeah. I mean, we'll never know, but...
There was a surprising amount of undecided voters, and even though the whole thing about those emails, that last set of emails was debunked,
yeah.
Still...
It still
she took a big hit.
It still put that bug in people's ear.
Yeah.
Well, I was watching the NBC coverage. I don't know what channel you were watching it on.
Yeah, from after the Wings game, when I was relieved of my duties, I wrote wrote what I had to write, and I turned it on at 10, and CBS. I was watching CBS all night. A little bit of NBC, but mostly CBS.
I love me some Lester Holt, so I was watching that. And at the beginning of the night, back when it looked like Hillary jumped out to a big lead in Ohio. And I was really surprised by that because, as we know, Ohio normally goes conservative, which it ended up doing. But very early, she was up by double digits, and I was like, okay, maybe it's the Kasich thing because I know Kasich is still pretty popular in Ohio, but it turned out to be a moot point because he ended up winning it. But about the time that Trump was making his move in Florida, the NBC political analysis team said that, well, Florida's not a must-win for Trump, but he'll be able to at least stay alive if he wins Florida, which made it look like it was a long shot for Trump at that point of the night. But of course, as the night went on, it got close. It was closer than anyone thought, and then Trump started pulling away. And I got to say, when it was close, it was killing me. I mean, the way that this coverage is done, right? At the beginning of the hour, the returns come in. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning of the hour, like, okay, this state's in, and then they do their kind of tote board. And then for an hour, they just pick apart and prognosticate and predict, and it was killing me. And I was looking for anything else to watch on TV just to because my nerves were shot. But
I was being eaten alive.
Yeah. But one thing they were saying is that a lot of these states, a lot of these battleground / quote unquote swing states that normally go Democratic were turning red. And they were saying, when the last time Hillary Clinton was in that state as to when Donald Trump was in this state, it seemed like Donald Trump really made a push in these quote unquote swing states in this flyover country. And I think that really hurt Hillary Clinton.
And he always emphasized the Rust Belt states.
Yeah.
Throughout his primary campaign and into the very last days of the election. He never stopped hammering the Rust Belt states.
And, I mean, I think Monday, he was in Grand Rapids, and I don't think that was planned. I think he saw Michigan was in play, and he got something together really quick.
Which it's also worth noting that his campaign was in complete disarray the last weekend of the election.
Yeah.
Yet there were all these reports of him being 2-3 hours late for rallies,
right.
Staffers not knowing what their assignments were, people arguing, lots of infighting and confusion. And yet, throughout all this, I think they still kept a sense of urgency.
Well, and it's funny, too. I remember the last month, people were saying, there's no undecided voters. If you're an undecided voter now, then you're an idiot. Well, I think...
There's a ton of them, apparently.
Well, and it's funny, too. I work in the media, Kyle,
mm-hmm.
and there were no campaign commercials until the last week. There were no campaign commercials. There might have been a couple in the primary, but other than that, from the primary to the election, no campaign commercials. The last week, we were chock full of them. And so I think that people really do underestimate the power of the voter who's disillusioned, who can't make up his mind. Because undecided voters, no one's an undecided voter because, gee, I like them both so much. Everyone's an undecided voter because, boy, they both seem like pond scum. Who's going to fuck the world up less?
Yeah, and one thing about that, too, and I heard this mentioned by a few people on Twitter when the backlash towards Hillary came in from the left, because it's funny because there's a contingent of people that still today will blame anyone but Hillary in her campaign for what happened.
Yeah.
They're going after third-party voters.
Right.
They're going after Bernie Sanders.
Right.
They're going after, Trump voters, media coverage, whatever. But her campaign messed up a lot, and a lot of that came from arrogance.
Yep.
It came from an unwillingness to tap into their actual voting base, to tap into their potential voting base, from their complete disregard of the white, uneducated voter. They they stayed within their comfort zone.
Right.
Whereas Trump, even though at times it was embarrassingly unsuccessful,
right.
he still went out and tried at least to get black and Latino voters. And you know what? He did better with black and Latino voters than Romney did.
Yeah, well, I think, and you know what? I take these polls with a grain of salt, especially after this last election. But I think they were showing, I think there were 3 big voter blocks that Hillary Clinton did worse in than Obama. The black vote, which I think Barack Obama got 93% of the black vote. Hillary Clinton got 88%.
Yeah.
So there's 12% of the black vote. And then she was also down with
women.
Women. I guess there's 4.
Huge with women, which was a major surprise, and I think swung the election, really.
But the other 2 were Hispanics and millennials.
Yeah.
And she was down with all of those. And, of course, with white people.
She underperformed in every demographic.
Yeah.
And that's on her. And that's on her campaign. I don't think even so much her, because I thought she did well in debates. I thought she handled the email scandal well.
I thought
the Benghazi thing I thought she handled well.
Well, in the debates, it looked like Donald Trump was getting his feelings hurt and hurling insults at her, and she just stone-faced adult in the room.
She, I thought, was unflappable in a lot of situations, and I thought made herself look a lot better. She made herself look palatable, but she came into this as an unlikable candidate, as a candidate that was tossed into the garbage can in 2008 for an upstart that was supposed to be another 8 years away.
Yeah.
Obama wasn't supposed to be anywhere near ready.
Right. Obama was supposed to be elected now.
Yes, exactly. This was supposed to be Obama's election now.
Yeah.
What does it tell you that he jumped her in 2008?
Well,
she's not a likable candidate.
And that's another huge thing, Kyle. It was, quote-unquote, her turn.
Yeah.
And
that mentality killed him.
Yep, because I think what knocked down her numbers a lot in a lot of those demographics, and Barack Obama. Well, in 2008, Barack Obama just kind of limped through. In 2004, he was a force, right? But
you mean 2012?
Yeah, what'd I say? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, in 2012, he just kind of limped back in. But in 2008. He was a force. I mean, he was historic. He was like The Rock, but presidential. And Hillary Clinton was just kind of, okay, fine. Well, there's nobody else. Joe Biden's not running, Uncle Joe, so I guess it's Hillary's turn. But then here comes another upstart, Bernie Sanders. And number one, the fact that the DNC was working against Bernie Sanders pissed off a whole lot of Bernie Sanders supporters who either voted third party or they stayed home. And those couple of percentages, obviously, have hurt them.
And that's in their fucking right to do that.
Right.
That's another thing, too.
Right.
It's been infuriating me all last night and then today. I'm seeing these, these Hillary apologists and these, Democratic, diehards saying, oh, well, screw these people voting third party. They blew the election for us. Thanks a lot. You gave us down. No, they didn't.
Right.
What? Gary Johnson got majority of the third party votes. Who was Gary Johnson really stealing those votes
Donald
from?
Trump. And that's
Donald
exactly
Trump.
what I was watching. I said, ooh, the third party got 2%. Well, it's Gary Johnson. So if Gary Johnson wasn't getting votes, Trump would just win by a bigger margin in that state.
And then Jill Stein wasn't getting enough votes to swing anything either way. Even if Stein's votes went to Hillary,
I think
they wouldn't have swung any state of consequence.
I think the Harambe D's Nuts tickets got as many votes as Jill Stein.
I mean, that's just a lot of butthurt, and it's just a misnomer. It's a lot of bitterness.
Well, and here's the thing, okay? If Bernie lost that election without any help from the DNC, without Hillary getting any help from the DNC, hey, that's fine. But you know what? There were so many young people engaged, excited by the election process.
Energized, yep.
Boom. Done. They're going to be apathetic the rest of their lives because they tried their hardest with Bernie Sanders, and it's not that he lost a hard-fought primary campaign, he had the deck stacked against him. And think about this logic, okay? Think about this logic. And I don't know what kind of power deals are brokered behind closed doors, but obviously enough people within the DNC owed Hillary Clinton for something. But think about this logic, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to work against a candidate because you feel that your pre-appointed candidate won't be able to beat him in a primary. So think about this. You help your candidate go up against a formidable opponent who you're afraid might beat her in a primary, and then you put her against someone who beat 20,000 people, however many Republicans there were in that primary. So you help your candidate beat one other candidate in a primary, and she limps into a general election against somebody who beat 13 other people. What the hell do you think's going to happen?
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
It was her turn.
Right.
Step aside, old man. Get out of the way, Bernie bro. It's her turn.
And you know what? As it went on,
yeah, no, it wasn't her. It's Donald Trump's turn now because she's a terrible candidate.
Right.
Nobody really liked her. Not enough people genuinely liked her.
Right, and that's
the only person who genuinely liked her was Lena Dunham, and there was your fucking problem.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of a side note here, but people are looking ahead to 2020 and who could be the next female president, the first female president. And realistically, statistically, Trump will probably get a second term.
Oh, God.
Because
I can't imagine. But, statistically...
Remember how unpopular George W. Bush was?
Yeah.
In 2004, I got the year right this time. In 2004, he won re-election. Do you know why? The devil you know is better than the devil you don't.
Yeah.
So realistically, he's going to get another term. But people are saying, Michelle Obama for 2020, which right now I like Michelle Obama. I don't know anything other than her. Than she seems like a nice lady who's very smart. She's got a great temperament. I like her. And I wouldn't be opposed. I'd be open to voting for her. But why don't we stop? Why don't we stop trying to find the first woman president as a former first lady, as the daughter of a former president? It's like, that shouldn't be. Why don't we look for a woman to be the first woman president just because she's qualified for it? You know what I'm saying?
Warren.
Right.
Elizabeth Warren, she gave a great speech at the DNC. She was big in the
Gesundheit.
Sorry about that. She was big in the Occupy Wall Street movement.
Yeah.
So a lot of young people know her and like her. She aligned herself with Bernie Sanders and was pretty much forced to endorse Hillary at the very end. And those two are allies, Sanders and Warren. I don't see Bernie running again because of his age. I don't. But I can see Elizabeth Warren taking the torch and being the next leader of this party, and that's the direction the party has to go in. Sanders, I think, would have been a better matchup against Trump. And why? Because Sanders engaged and energized young people. What did I hear last night? Throughout when it was apparent that Clinton was going to lose. Clinton just wasn't getting that Obama vote.
Right.
Clinton just didn't have an engaged and energized and focused youth vote. Youth voter turnout among millennials is way down compared for Obama.
Right. People would have been voting for Bernie and not against Trump.
Exactly.
The thing is, Trump had people voting against Hillary and for him.
I was voting against Trump. I wasn't voting for Hillary. I was voting against Trump.
You could have put a ham sandwich there.
Plainly a defensive vote.
You could have put a ham sandwich there. I would have voted. It doesn't matter who it was.
Yeah, and the point is Sanders was cutting into the market that Donald Trump used to beat Hillary. Yes, there was obviously some misogyny, some race. There was a lot of other issues that went into the blender of this shit smoothie.
Right.
But
which happens in any cultural event.
But the point is that Sanders performed well in Iowa, where he lost in a shady rock, paper, scissors or coin flip or whatever the hell they used to decide that.
Hillary Clinton did very well in these parlor trick tiebreakers in these primary states.
She ended up winning Nevada, but of course there's the whole scandal in Nevada,
Right.
where it was basically proven through the DNC leak that they did rig Nevada for her. And then on top of that, you have Wisconsin, which he won, and you have Michigan, which he won.
Right.
And I mean, sure, Clinton won Ohio and Pennsylvania easily, but you wonder if Sanders could have flipped those voters, because Sanders tapped into the frustrated lower middle class.
Right.
He tapped into people who lost their pensions, people who were frustrated union workers, former union workers, and he tapped into young people. He had a voice.
And you know what he also had that could have competed with Trump? Even though he's been a senator for a long time, he still had that outsider persona because he was an independent for so long.
Yeah, and he has that I back in front of his name, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He released a statement today on Donald Trump being elected, and it was a beautiful statement, by the way.
Yeah.
God, why wasn't he the nominee? Anyway.
Because it wasn't his turn, Kyle.
Wasn't his turn.
He never had a turn.
That poor old bastard. You know, he waits until really the very end of his life and says, fuck it.
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and run.
Yeah.
If there's any time, it's now. And you know, he
here's
just gets teased, and then they rip it away from him.
And here's the thing, too. You know, if you were concerned about Bernie Sanders and his socialist leanings.
Well, you just elected a fascist, so.
Well, and the thing is, the Republicans have the supermajority now. They have control of the House and Senate. So, you know, another thing of hope, Kyle, is that Obama couldn't get much done with that, so maybe Trump won't be able to get much done. But if Sanders was in there, Sanders would have been rendered pretty much ineffective. Because
he would have been a very popular figurehead.
Right.
If there's one good thing that could come out of a Trump presidency with a working government again, because that's what these Republican bastards did. They blocked Obama as much as they could, to the point where Democratic government was looking fruitless, to the point where people are like, well, we're not going to elect any of these people. We're not going to have 4 more years of this. Let's get a Republican in here. They know how to govern. Well, they were the ones preventing government from happening.
Right, exactly.
But they pulled the trick on everybody, and now they're going to be able to push a bunch of legislature through. It's going to be socially regressive and awful. But one thing they could get done that I am looking forward to is they are talking about working on a lot of infrastructure.
Yeah.
I am hoping that comes to fruition, and that could be one thing Trump talked about doing in his first 100 days that I think could actually be a positive and get him off to a good start in his presidency.
Well,
He'll fuck it up somehow, though, because he's an idiot.
There was a piece of tape, too, with Trump, and I forgot which network it was with, where he says, look, when I'm president, I'll act differently because I have to. So there's another glimmer of hope.
But the whole point with Sanders, though, is that he when I finally came out of the closet to my parents that I was a Sanders voter.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it might as well. I mean, you're voting for Bernie Sanders.
Right.
In my family, you might as well be gay.
Right.
I was only able to do it after the DNC leak for that 1 week when conservatives liked Sanders and sympathetic
Sanders.
for him.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So that I knew that was a strike when the iron's hot. And I told my parents, I said, all that stuff about how much he'd have to raise taxes for all of his policies and everything, I said, you know what? That wouldn't end up happening. He would have to come towards the middle.
Right.
And the legislature that he has got done has been for farmers, it's been for veterans, it's been for lower middle class working people. It's been for the type of people that you root for, the type of people that you now feel have been alienated by the quote-unquote elites. And he's worked with conservatives. You ask a lot of, it's ironic, you ask a lot of conservatives in Washington about Sanders and his legislative record, they say glowing things about him because he doesn't care about party lines. If he wants to get a bill done, he'll do what he needs to do to get that damn bill done. And God.
Yeah. Bernie Sanders did give us two I would say light in the dark moments. Two very, I don't want to say magical moments, but two uplifting moments in the campaign. Number one, that bird that came down on his podium, and there's that picture of him looking down at the bird, and the bird's looking at him like he's some kind of androgynous elderly Disney princess. I found that to be very charming. And then at the DNC, where you know that his nomination was all but done, but at the very end, his brother from his home state announced the delegates that were going to him, and he made a speech about how his parents loved FDR and that his brother was carrying that on, and he called him Bernard, which I found oddly touching, and they were both moved to tears. I thought those were two beautiful moments in the campaign, which were lacking.
Yeah, and I mean, Sanders had his faults that Clinton never even tried to exploit.
Right.
I'll never forget.
She didn't have to, obviously.
Yeah, right. Because I think she knew it was in the bag all along. But again, that just adds to the arrogance that surrounded her campaign that ultimately did them in.
You know what it was? It was the kid who cheated on all her homework assignments, and when it was time to take the big test, she was unprepared and she failed.
Yeah,
that's what that was.
Which is funny because a lot of people would have made that analogy about Trump.
No,
and I think it was Clinton all along.
The one thing about Trump is we've been underestimating him this whole time.
Yeah, well, I think we've been underestimating his campaign.
Right,
his campaign staff has looked like a shit show from the outside with Bannon and Corey Lewandowski and that Manafort guy who has ties to the Russian mob. And, all these guys, it's a cavalcade of jokers.
Right.
But they know how to grease the wheels and get shit done.
Yeah.
And Kellyanne Conway, in the middle of all of it, has been a perfect spin doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, you just put it, he got the right people around him. And
you know what? It doesn't look
on paper they weren't the right people, but they were the right people to get the dirty work done that he needed to get done.
And that's what you hope happens, even though it doesn't look like it in the early goings where he has Newt Gingrich and Rudy Giuliani in his cabinet, and I got to look up what cabinet positions they are.
Yeah, Ben Carson is supposedly going to be Secretary of Education.
Of Education? But he's a doc. Wouldn't he be better for Secretary of Health? Or
that's the rumor. Surgeon General, maybe.
Right.
I know. Wouldn't that make sense?
I mean,
Shit's going to get real weird, Mike.
But
nothing is going to make sense in the next 4 years.
If Ben Carson was Surgeon General, now he said a lot of crazy crap, but he's the former head of neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins. I would be comfortable with that.
And he would also be put in a situation where he could not influence, I guess he could still influence some healthcare legislation, but still, education is going to get fucking gutted.
Well,
even more than it already is. Like how in Texas,
our first president, our founding father, Ronald Reagan, now sits at the right hand of the Father in heaven.
Yeah. Ronald Reagan, whose famous quote was "Tear down this wall," and the same people who swear to him,
You're
as
about to say something woke,
as if he is the Lord. You got Trump saying, "Let's build a wall."
And you know what's going to happen? He's not going to get that wall built. So what's going to happen at the end of that first term?
I hope he tries because it'll fuck him up.
Just like everyone who was disappointed that. At the end of Obama's first term, that everyone wasn't rich. Trump won't get that first wall built.
I hope he tries to build that wall, because if he actually tries, he'll get a boot so far through his fucking ass.
It's the American way. Or what he's going to build the wall, spend a lot of money on it. It's going to be ineffective.
That's what I'm saying. The whole thing will become a boondoggle, and it'll be hilarious. I mean, it'll be terrible because our tax dollars will be paying for it.
Right.
And, we'll have another recession, and it'll be awful. But at the same time, I'll be laughing.
Well, like I said, as a straight white male, I'm morbidly curious about the next 4 years. Everyone else, I'm sorry. I'll do my best to have your back. But, Kyle, let's just take it week by week. If we're still alive and we still have power and internet and we're not in internment camps for talking out against Emperor Trump, we'll be back next week. Or as long as you don't have a hockey game or we have to stay late. Thanks for listening, Paul. If you're still out there, let's turn the radio off. Bye.